Skybreaker's True Crime is not a newscast. The topics discussed and displayed herein are the opinions of the authors and are not to be misconstrued as legal or professional advice. This podcast is to inform, educate, and entertain. Viewer discretion is advised. The authors assume no responsibility for any circumstances arising out of the use, misuse, interpretation, or application of any information supplied herein.
Welcome to Skybreaker's True Crime, where we guide you through real traumatic cases rooted in domestic abuse, honoring the afflicted while uncovering the warning signs, failures, truths behind each story. I'm Harlow.
I'm Sarah. And before we begin today, we want to remind everybody that what we share are publicly released records. Nothing that violates privacy policies or HIPAA policies, which is going to be kind of a sore spot for mine today. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to take you to Pender, North Carolina. Take you back to January of 2006. So Michelle Kirby was a mother of two, and the father to these children, LaCane Murphy. I was ready. And we're not editing this out. We're not doing it. We're not. Okay. We're two perfectly imperfect people. However, so Michelle and LaCane had a 7-year relationship. And during that relationship, they managed to have 2 children at the age of 2 and 4 come January 2006. So they were still little kids. Yeah. Very little. On Christmas Eve of 2005, LaCane actually broke into Kirby's home and beat her. He was arrested. At that time, she put a protection order on him. On January 2nd, 9 days later, he broke back into the home. So on January 2nd, she actually went and met a friend of hers, Malachi Lofton, at a biker club kind of thing. They apparently had a friendship. There's no record of it being like intimate or if they were attempting to try to date, right, or if it was just mentioned that he was just a friend. He did go back to her home with her that evening. She put both the children to bed. When she came downstairs, Murphy was outside her back door. He broke in, beat her unconscious badly. She was hospitalized for quite some time and to heal. The children were not harmed, but she recalled a gunshot. He had actually shot Lofton in the head that evening. So Murphy attempted to go back to the neighbor's house. Keep in mind, this is 9 days after protection order was put on for his rage, for his beating her. Went back to the neighbor's house and informed the neighbor there was a dead body inside. Yeah. Went and told the neighbor, hey, there's a dead body across the street. So the cops got there at 1 o'clock in the morning to find Kirby unconscious. She was taken to the hospital. To find Lofton had been murdered. And the children were not harmed. They were not harmed. They were witness to it, but they were not harmed, which was probably a silver lining in this situation. Like, yeah, I'm sure they were terrified. A little bit of backstory. I'm trying not to get my names mixed up here. So Murphy actually had a history of arrests with robberies and assault. So there was a little bit of the lineup of
like a paper trail of
his behaviors. Yeah. He kind of had that foundation of he kind of had a rage issue, an anger issue. Here's the kicker though. And this does not, under any circumstances, make the abuse okay. He was bipolar. He had bipolar disorder. He had been taking medication. His lawyer in the courtroom said that he was literally ricocheting off the walls. On January 4th, so when they took Michelle to the hospital, when Kirby was taken to the hospital, Murphy showed up at the hospital. That's where he was arrested. So they took her to the hospital, and he showed up after harming her. That's where he was arrested, on site. 2 days later, he was taken into his hearing and attempted to stab himself in the middle of the court hearing with a pen. He had already been hospitalized multiple times beforehand with suicidal tendencies. Now, bipolar disorder is not something that you're necessarily born with. It is genetic. It is. And a lot of times it can be handled with medication. It does not necessarily link directly to domestic abuse. However, there are traumatic events that can trigger it.
Yes.
There's no public history record of what kind of events he endured as a child, as far as like what could have triggered it, or if there was something with the relationship itself that could have triggered it. All he saw was his ex, who, by the way, 9 days after putting a protection order on him, turn around, same thing. I don't know if there was any connections, like where there was altercations previous to Murphy and Lofton
Right.
actually having like any kind of interactions. He just had a tendency to show up to her home. And just, in 2008, March 2008, 2 years later, he was convicted of first-degree murder, assault with a deadly weapon. He pleaded out of the death sentence because of his disorder. So they didn't hold that to him, but he did have to do like hospitalization and treatments, and it was just one of those. Again, a lot of the theories that we throw out, because we don't have the full intimate facts on some of this stuff that happened behind doors, it's not speculation. It's just theories of behaviors and characterizations of the abuse.
Right.
What could have brought him to this? What could have pushed him to this? But there's no explanation as to why they ended their relationship. And I'm sure it has something to do with his anger and his history.
There's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, especially if he's like already been convicted and arrested for like armed robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But is there anything about like that he was like medicated and then maybe he stopped taking his meds?
So at the time of the arrest, there's no defined report that he was taking medication. Now, when he was going through his trial,
Right.
he was on lithium and antidepressants.
Right. Now, being incarcerated, they will give you
Yes.
the medication that.
Yes. And now the lawyer that represented him did state that he had been off medication, but they did not know for how long, or if it was like a choice that he chose not to take it, or yeah.
Or if he could no longer like afford to be on his medication.
Which is, and it, like I said, the disorder is absolutely no excuse, but it was absolutely a contributing factor in this case.
Right.
But she remembered having the gunshot, but she did not remember the Lofton being in the home. She didn't remember having her friend there. She didn't know why she had the gunshot. She actually attempted to call 911 and managed to dial it before she went completely blank. But it was the neighbor who was like, could you imagine someone showing up at your door and you're like, hey, what's up? And you're like, hey, there's a dead body across the street.
Right.
And then having to find that.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure, like, if there was the gunshot, the neighbor would have heard it too, and then all of a sudden here's this guy showing up. And I'm sure they knew each other.
Yeah.
It was like, hey,
I
there's
don't
a
let
dead
my
body
neighbors
next
in.
door. You're like, oh, okay.
You gotta wonder if he was taking the medication. Like, is there what triggered his disorder to come out as rage? Was there a controlling factor? Because they were even listed, like this whole dispute was listed as a domestic violence because of the characterization of her being beaten not once but twice within like a 2-week period.
Yeah.
He came at her. There's no record on, was it about the kids? Was she, withholding the kids because of his history? If she had custody, are they going through custody? There was none of that. But those are all contributing factors that could enrage somebody. And with bipolar disorder, explosive mood swings are absolutely a characterization. Now, anybody with bipolar disorder, I understand the disorder is not like, you can't help that you have it.
Right.
It's not one of those things like you have 65 to 80% chance genetically of inheriting it.
Right.
And it does get passed through your children too, like passed down. But, there are ways to manage it. There are ways, but like you said, what if he couldn't afford it? What if he wasn't able to?
And sometimes you don't necessarily need to be on medication either, but going through like therapy, and a lot of people don't. They have like that stigma, like, oh, I don't need therapy. Like therapy's for like crazy people, and I'm not admitting that I'm crazy, and kind of all of this, and like there is a cycle of being, okay, I feel really good right now, being on like medication or something, and then it's like, well, I don't need it anymore.
Yep.
And then stopping, and then all of a sudden you go into like a manic state, and that manic state can either come out in aggression or come out in like you're organizing the entire house. Like there is a huge difference in like all of the things where that manic state can come out. And so it isn't like, we're not saying that people with bipolar disorder are going to,
no,
go out and murder people.
No, with this case, I feel like it's possible that he couldn't, it's so overwhelming that if you're in your head and he had all this rage build up, and then he's seeing someone you shared a relationship with, you started to build a life with, he had a history of aggressiveness that was already there. And that may be why she was like, hey, that might be the reason they weren't together. That might be the reason the children were with her.
Right.
Maybe he had been hospitalized before for suicidal tendencies. That's not a healthy situation for your children. So all the warning signs were there. His lawyer specifically stated at his trial that all of this could have been avoided. And she tried. She went for help. And I commend her for that. Yes. You saw the signs. I mean, I hate that she had to get injured.
Yeah.
That he had to come at her that first time for her to be like, no more. But like we said before, production orders lay your foundation. Had he not harmed her, but had shown up to the home or anything like that, he would have been arrested. He would have went to jail. And then maybe then he could have gotten the Medicaid. There's so many ways that this could have ended. It could have been a whole lot worse. And
really could have.
My sympathies go out to the Lofton family and to the Kirby family who had to deal with this tragic event, to the children, because
absolutely,
but luckily they did walk away with their mother.
Yes.
One of our first cases, they weren't so lucky, but the rage that I can't control things, like I can't control, and a lot of that for him was brain chemistry.
Yes. It is definitely the bipolar is a chemical imbalancement in your brain, and it's not an excuse if you're not taking, like, if you know that you have it, you're responsible for taking the appropriate health management to be not normal, but to be able to not control it, maintain. That's the word. Maintain it.
Be able to function and
yeah,
be, there's no amount of turmoil in your head that I can't tell you what he was thinking. I can't tell you what she was thinking. I know that she was trying to protect herself and her kids. I don't know if she was trying to move on from that relationship or how long they had been away from each other before these incidents. If it was like a back-to-back, as far as like, hey, she left and now that's what triggered his episodes. But absolutely, like, this is kind of the double-edged sword. It's why I really liked this case. Not liked it as in, oh my God. No, This is why I found it interesting. It's a double-edged sword because we do focus on the domestic abuse. We do focus on the whys, the hows, the what ifs. Like I said, not speculating, but theorizing. Yeah. Because what if he had managed it well? What if he had the option and the ability? I mean, the robberies and such were his choice.
But So this is where it kind of leads into that whole bipolar disorder. These are kind of manic, impulsive, and so this has been laid out as the foundation. Like, so there is a possibility that he hasn't been like treating or managing in any way, and he's just
doesn't know how to I'm drawing blanks on words today. Maybe he doesn't know, just like a lot of adults. We try to teach our kids how to manage our emotions and our reactions when a lot of adults can't do the same.
Right.
And we weren't taught, older days, you weren't taught this is what you did and this is what you did, this is what you did. You didn't worry about your mental health. It was so taboo to talk about it.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to share this, because this could have been avoided. However, I 100% stand by the fact that these were still his choices.
Oh yeah, no.
His actions were his choices. They are not at all excused. But it could have been managed. And there's no guarantee that even if he did manage it, that he still wouldn't have acted the way that he did.
Right.
But he pled guilty. He did, he's serving time. I mean, I'm thankful that she was able. I do hate that Lofton took the blow too.
Right. And just being there to help protect and to be like, yeah, okay, he's already shown up. I'm gonna come and try to protect or be there if he shows up. And he got murdered for helping a friend.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because what if he actually had no intentions of coming for Lofton?
Right.
What if that wasn't part of it? What if it was a trigger for him that he saw her with another man, but he had already come to attack her before.
Right.
Like just before this happened. And Lofton wasn't there at the time. Hey, what if he was trying to intervene to protect her and those kids? None of that's in the reports. None of that's in the history, like, hey, this is what happened, or this is why this happened. They did take, the downside to this case, they did take all of it to being based on the fact that he was bipolar.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like his crutch.
Kind of like that, not quite insanity plea, but kind of in that realm of...
Yes.
Yeah. Using mental health as a crutch.
And we all, like, everybody has something they're dealing with in their lives. Oh. It's how you deal with it. A lot of people don't get the help. A lot of people don't reach out for the help.
Right.
And it's really sad that she did. She was like, I can't keep living this way. Like, I need that order for me and my children.
Yeah.
Like, that foundation was there. He had the history, and honestly, had he been the first time, I don't understand why on New Year's Eve he wasn't already placed, unless he was on a hold. There's no record of him being arrested that day. That was 9 days before the incident in January.
So not even like a booking, or like he...
None that I could find online for it.
It might have been just kind of like a, hey.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
And then let him go.
Had something been done then, I mean, she took the protection order out.
Right.
But there was no arrest. There was no, wait a second, like, maybe she chose not to file. Maybe she chose just to do the order. I just don't want him around me anymore.
Maybe. Because
of his history. I don't know.
And like we were talking about last episode with, like, some states pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina is one of them.
North Carolina is not.
Yeah.
It is one of those hit or miss. They will, you have to have substantial evidence for it to begin with.
Yes,
I know. You can't just walk in and say, hey, I need this. This person's doing this and this and this. You have to have substantial evidence. And that could have been what triggered him.
Maybe.
Getting this order could have been like, oh, he was already triggered. Maybe that's what escalated. There's so many what ifs that was not covered in this case.
Yeah.
That it literally infuriates me. Right. And I dug. I dug. Like, I even tried to get a copy of the police report, which I didn't have time to finish, but what? I didn't. And that's on me. So if I do get a follow-up, I absolutely will, like, do, like, a post or something about it just to kind of
Right.
follow up with some of these cases. But there was no information in that. The lawyer was so... his mental health. He
Right.
was so focused on the man's mental
Focused
health.
on the mental health.
Not his actions, not what happened on his actions. And it may not, I don't know. There's so many what ifs that it drives me crazy.
Right. And it could also be like a combination of like, oh, she did this. I had to go like speak to the police and like I didn't get arrested, but you know, and then New Year's is happening. And what if they like had like a tradition on New Year's where they were together and were with kids and all of a sudden it's like, okay, this happened. It's New Year's. I'm emotional right now. My brain is just, and I'm not where I should be for however long they had been together. And like, this could have been like a tradition that like, you know, maybe he really did like, and then all of a sudden it was like, not only are you having the mental issues happening, but then all of a sudden it becomes like emotional too. And so them colliding is normally when a really bad kind of manic outburst ends up happening.
And like you said, New Year's, what do a lot of people do around New Year's?
Ooh, drink it.
Drink it. Like that. None of this was mentioned in the orders, like in the reports. None of it. Like, was he under any influences? Like, what? Why? Why did he choose to harm her? And he did not touch the kids. He didn't try to take the children either.
Which is absolutely like,
it's a blessing.
It is.
It is a blessing that he left them. I mean, they still have to live with whatever they witnessed that night. Their mother still has to live with it. She has to carry the fact that she just lost her friend because of the situation.
Right.
You know, like it's just one giant spiral of no questions answered.
Yeah.
That kill me.
Mm-hmm.
It literally, I was reading this, I'm so mad. I had to keep putting my laptop down. I was like, why? Why is there no more on this?
Right. And that also kind of leads into the whole thing about like, when stereotypically people are like, oh yeah, you know, that's their, well, it's not even a stereotype, it's what people do. Oh, I know, or I suspect that, you know, there's some domestic violence happening in your life, but it's not my business.
Yep. They want to stay out of it.
They want to stay out of it.
I'm not that person.
So when you do hear stories about somebody trying to step in and help and them getting murdered or hurt, then it draws people to be like, oh, see, I can't be getting involved. I don't want to die for somebody else.
Yep, I have children to think about. I have myself and my spouse or my friends or my family to think about. Like, it does happen more often than it's actually not reported as much.
Right.
It's not seen as a common factor. However, it just this infuriates me that it was basically reading some of these reports, especially from his lawyer, that you know the state gave him.
Yeah.
The state gave him this attorney, and he's like, oh no, it's because he wasn't medicated. That's no excuse.
Right.
That is no excuse. If I miss a day of medication, my BP's gonna go up, but it's you're responsible for maintaining your health, and how you do that is your business, as long as you're not hurting other people.
Right.
But there was this relationship, there was children, there was, so many factors that were not presented.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like, oh no, he just wasn't medicated. This one really gets to me. Definitely. It really gets to me. So that's all I have. So we're going to turn it over to Miss Harlow.
Oh, I thank you. Case, we are going to Candler, North Carolina. And coincidentally, it is also happening kind of on New Year's. Now, we we don't kind of talk about our cases with each other. So this was kind of like a very strange coincidence that has happened. So, but mine was a few years later. So this all started on Wednesday, December 21st. No, sorry, 31st, December 31st of 2008. Let's do a little backstory. Angelina, Heatwole, also known as Angie, she is 49 years old, was married to Richard Heatwole, 45 years old. Now, Angie is what she went by, was previously married. So this is her second marriage to Richard. Angie and Richard have 2 children together. And then Angie had a child from a previous marriage. Everything kind of on paper looks fantastic for this divorce. Like, that sounds crazy, but on paper, it looks like everything was going smooth. Okay, so they had been together roughly like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in 2006, they separated. By 2007, divorce finalized, custody handled. 2008 is when they started and finalized the property situation.
The equal distribution.
Right. So everything was like, okay, we got that done, we got that done, we got that done. Everything on paper looked great. And so I had to do a little digging. Because it looked so great, and then all of a sudden, like, this shit show happened. So, come to find out that Richard was a pretty violent person, and there weren't trails of protection orders or any kind of, like, even domestic calls to the police. There was no record, but family members of Angie knew that she was scared of him, that he was violent. And their custody thing is Richard only was awarded visitation.
Ooh.
And that was it. So I also had to dig a little further because in March of 2008, he was charged with drug possession in Florida. So he was on probation for drug possession in December of 2008 at this time that this happened. He was on probation. And the courts had awarded the home to Angie. Now, at the time, Angie was living with her mother and the kids. He was still at the home, and they had a renter that rented a room since 2005. This woman had rented a room with them, and her name was Divina Aguito. And she was 44 years old. She was a truck driver, like a long distance truck driver. So this was kind of like just like a, hey, I'm renting a room on the times that I'm in town that I'm not on the road kind of thing. So she was still living at the house as well and paying Richard, you know, her rent and everything like that. So the court awarded Angie the property. or the house. Now, on the property, Richard owned a driving range.
On their home property?
Yes.
It's dedication there.
It's dedication. So when Angie and Richard met, she was working at her parents' fabric shop. And he had come in to find fabric for his golf balls, to make a bag for his golf balls. Because he owned a driving range. So when they had gotten this property, they built their home on it and built another location for his driving range. She got the house. I'm not 100% sure if she got, like, I'm assuming she got part of the driving range as well, but that wasn't in any of, like, the files. But in the file, there was a foreclosure on the other property that the other driving range had been on. So Angie, on Wednesday, December 31st, 2008, was going to pick up the kids and pick up the key to the house. Now, she never came back home, and her mother, on January 1st, 2009, at 3 in the morning, called the police and reported her missing. The police didn't go to the house. Like, the mom told them, like, hey, she went to go pick up the kids from the house and the key, and she hasn't been back since. The police didn't show up at the residence until noon. On the 1st. So they saw Angie's car in the driveway. They knocked on the door. There was no answer. And the mom had, like, specifically kind of told them, hey, this is what happened. This is, like, this man is violent. She is scared of him. And now all of a sudden she's not home with the kids. So they entered the home. And when they entered the home, they found Angie and they found Divina. Angie, when the coroner's, like, report came out, had been suffocated. Ooh. Divina had been hit in the head with a hatchet. So, an APB went out for Richard, and a Amber Alert went out for their 2 children. And their children are 10 and 6. So they start their investigation and they go next door to talk to the neighbor about, like, hey, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? And they found the next door neighbor, Lesley Keough, who was 43, on her front porch, covered up with a towel, and who had also been struck in the head by a hatchet.
So he suffocated the ex-wife.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it doesn't specify, like, kind of who died first, but with how it kind of is looking is that she came to get the kids and to get the key. And maybe while he was suffocating his wife, or had already suffocated her, Divina had kind of, like, showed up, and it was kind of a, oh.
But you'd have to have the hatchet, like, right there and ready.
You kind of would.
I mean,
I don't know if he walks around with it on, or if it just happened to be by, or she ran and he ran after her, and
That was the first thing he could find. Maybe they were outside and then, oh my God.
so, and then the neighbor, don't know if the neighbor was trying to be like the nosy neighbor, or if she was friends. It didn't really say if they were like really good friends with Angie or not. But maybe she like kind of came over and saw what would happen, or just happened to be on her porch and saw him covered in blood.
Or heard something because okay, I have to ask. Was she clothed when she was covered with a towel?
Yes.
Okay, so she's not like, oh, I heard a noise and then I'm in the shower
And
and
it-
I came
right.
out. Yeah, okay.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no. So it was kind of like I think it was more along the lines of kind of like oh, I'm just gonna cover this up and hope that nobody notices. Because nobody else was like, their faces weren't covered. So it's
Well,
not like a remorse.
That's what I was going to say. Usually covering your, I don't want to use the word victim. I hate the term victim. But normally covering them, especially covering their face, shows remorse.
Yes. But nobody else was covered.
So she might have just been collateral damage. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, like, in the terms of the situation.
Right. In the terms of the situation, yes. Like collateral damage. Oh, wrong place, wrong time. She was outside doing something and just so happened to witness. I Google mapped the house and like the layout and stuff, and they kind of are not like next door, but kind of angled at each other. So I don't know if like from her porch she could see.
Maybe, yeah.
And there were trees, and we don't know like if the trees are
like gone over there.
Yes.
He would have had to have gone over there either before or after. Oh, okay. Continue. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Continue.
So they find Lesley, and they're like, oh, okay, so we have to like really get like, the APB and everything like that. So they had already issued it, but then found the third body. And we're like, okay, no, this is serious. Where are the kids? What is happening? We need to find him. And he's on probation. So there's already like kind of the violating probation. So
which they don't do anything about here in North Carolina.
But this was for
possession, wasn't it?
This is in Florida. He got charged
okay.
in Florida.
So he got charged for possession in Florida, not North Carolina. Okay.
Yes. So he has like ties in Florida, like family ties in Florida. So I'm assuming, he went down there for it happened in March. And got a little hemmed up. But because he didn't live in Florida, they'll let you kind of do the probation, but you have to kind of report either through here, like a probation officer through here that communicates, or maybe he just had to go back and forth for like meetings with like his probation officer.
Yeah, there's a type of interstate pass where you can like for X amount of days or at this time, but I'm not 100% on the details of those.
Right. So I'm 100% sure that it's a hard violation of probation.
Yeah.
Murder.
You think? I mean, I'm sure it's not directly stated, hey, don't
murder anybody.
Don't kill anybody, but like, I mean, it's kind of implied.
Right. So they could have that kind of warrant too. So not only is he wanted for murder in North Carolina, but they can put it in as, hey, you're violating this too.
Yes.
So
absolutely, because if you are on probation, you're not supposed to have a weapon in hand either.
Right.
Of any sort.
Of any sort. Of any sort. So, the APB goes out and everything like that. And so we are now traveling to Taylorsville, North Carolina, where I know I'm like,
I do have to fix this. Like,
is it? I don't even know how it got twisted.
I probably hit it going, when I want to go.
Okay, so we're going to Taylorsville, North Carolina, where there is a an off-duty police officer who got an anonymous phone call, like on his cell phone, saying that Richard was at his cousin's house, trailer in Taylorsville, North Carolina. So he ends up calling his station or his department, saying, "Hey, I got a tip. I'm gonna go check it out. I'll let you guys, like, you know, kind of know, because the APB
No, at that
is out."
point, send back up. Right? Like, I'm going, but if you get there, I'm not going, you know.
So he ends up kind of, you know, rolling by the house, the residence, and sees that Richard's vehicle is in the driveway. So he gets on the radio and says, "Hey, the vehicle's here." So he gets back up, and then he gets on like the little speakerphone thingy. No, like the ones that like project out of the vehicle.
Into speaker, yes.
He got on his speaker, and he was like, you know, just trying to do some negotiation to see if Richard was even, like, you know, there. And this is like 6 a.m.
Bullhorn?
Is there a bullhorn? No. That's like the...
Anyways, I'm sorry.
We're gonna figure it out. So it's like 6 a.m, and he's like trying to do negotiations with Richard before, you know, his backup gets there. His backup ends up getting there, but they heard a gunshot in the house, and then SWAT was called.
Mm-hmm.
So SWAT tried to come and tried to establish contact, tried to do negotiation. Nothing was happening. So they ended up like forcefully entering the home. Kids were fine.
Okay. I could breathe.
You're
Like,
right.
I've been like, what about the kids? What about the kids? But I know you were getting there, but I'm like,
Right.
what about the kids?
Little suspense. No, so the kids were fine. Kids were in the back bedroom. They were not harmed. So when they heard that gunshot, when the first officer heard that gunshot, and I think it was at like, it was really early in the morning. And it was like 10 minutes after the police officer got there. Richard had shot him, like he shot himself in the head. And it was like a 4-hour standoff is what it was before they entered the home. Richard's cousin did not let anybody in the house or let the kids out because he was freaked out that he was going to get like drug charges. Yes. So for like a 4-hour standoff.
So the cousin was at the house the whole time.
Yes. He showed up, like, Richard showed up with the kids, and I'm assuming was all like, dude, I fucked up. Or he didn't tell him anything and just was like, hey.
But he can hear over the speaker that they weren't coming. Like, I can maybe understand, like, hey, I've got something in my possession that I shouldn't have, or, oh, and the cops are swarming the house. Like, but once the negotiation started going off, and I've been like, no, bro, you're on your own. Like, I'd probably take
out
the
of my
kids.
house.
Yeah, like, grab the kids and sneak out the back door. Or,
right.
Or, you know, was he being threatened too?
Right. But remember, 10 minutes later, after the one police officer showed up, Richard shot himself in the head. The cousin could have been like, he's dead. but was so paranoid about getting drug charges that
He did a 4-hour standoff
He
with
did.
police who weren't even there for him.
yes,
Like, hey, he's, you know.
yes. So, and there's that whole thing too. Yes, I understand. Like, you know, oh, he freaked out because, like, you know, he's got drugs in the house. But if they are there for a man who murdered 3 people and kidnapped his children, I highly doubt that they're going to be looking around the house being like, "You got drugs?"
I mean, not necessarily. That's not their high priority. But what if the cousin didn't realize that's what was happening? Why?
I mean, it could have kind of been that, but
Like, what was
over
stated?
the thing,
It may have been,
they're
hey, we
asking
need to
for
speak
Richard.
with you. They're asking for you. Like, he doesn't know what's happening. But I mean, Richard he had a possession charge. So maybe that's
You're
why.
right.
Maybe that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the guy had. I got too many thoughts on this.
So because he did that, and it was 4 hours, the cousin got charged with obstruction of oh my God, there was something else. It was obstruction, enabling,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got charged with drug charges.
Man, he should have just went on out the door. Took the charge.
Well, I'm assuming because, like, in, like, interviews and stuff, like, you know, them asking him, and he was all like, well, I did. Because they found out that, like, the coroner found out that Richard had died 4 hours prior to them coming into the home. And so they were like, hey, what happened? And he was like,
So the cop didn't hear the gunshot?
yes. That's when the SWAT team was called.
So here's my thing. I understand there's a gun involved, and the presence of a firearm increases homicide by 500%, statistically speaking. So I understand as an officer of the law, you're out there hearing this. But what if he was going after the kids and you could have prevented that or stopped it or intervened?
I think they have, don't they have protocol?
They have protocols.
They have protocol.
They have protocols. They do. And I understand that. And those protocols are there for their safety, their legality, the safety of those that are on the other side. I understand that. But as a human being,
Right.
if I'm standing outside and I hear a gunshot go off and I know those children are most likely in that home, it's the only other option unless he dropped them off somebody random. Which I get it. I get that he's following protocol. I understand that.
Right. And then, yeah, the SWAT team was called, and then the SWAT team, like, they were trying to do negotiations too.
Normally they don't always do that. No, if you've been on a standoff for X amount of time, especially when there's children or other lives involved, they absolutely have the right to just your front door the second they show up.
Right. There was a little amount of time from when they showed up to the time that they, like, busted down the door.
Yeah,
And then it was kind of like, oh, here's the dead body. Okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then they start getting the kids. They get, you know, the cousin and all this other stuff. And then they find out that, you know, Richard had killed himself 10 minutes after the first.
I'm glad the children were not harmed.
Yeah, children were not
I'm
harmed.
always so thankful when the children are not harmed. I know they're going to have like the mental aspect because
Oh,
now
yes.
they've lost their mother. But let's go back to that. Were there any other reports on the mom and Divina and Lesley?
So, no.
They didn't give any kind of like these are the series of events or this one was at, you know, this many times, this time and this time. Because I do wonder, like,
Oh, wait, there was one thing about Divina. So Divina had told Richard that she was moving out in 2 weeks. So he was losing money.
but he was losing the house.
He was
anyways.
losing the house. That was kind of like the only thing with Divina where it was all like, hey, she's...
There was no reports of him being violent or any comments about what kind of violence.
No,
Nope.
no, not what, like, there were no reports other than, like, what the mother had reported to, like, police after the fact. That he was violent, she was scared of him.
Man.
So
If-
she kept all of that and had to deal with it herself. Mom knew, and I think one other friend knew. And she was trying to ride it out the divorce is finalized. This is the last thing that we have to deal with is this property. Now, on paper, everything's fine.
Clean.
Yeah.
For the divorce.
For the divorce.
But had she maybe reported, like maybe he wasn't. There are different violent behaviors.
Yes.
Some may not be technically physical. It could be a matter of, oh, well, I'm gonna punch a hole in the wall, and you better be glad it wasn't your head. You know, like damaging property, the yelling, the like maybe it was more mental than physical, or if it was physical. I mean, I'm glad she got out, but for everything to just be cleared off, and then like I don't understand how the divorce got finalized without the ED done. Like normally that's part of the process, unless there was something like foreclosure or bankruptcy or anything like that filed in that the house was involved in.
It might have been because there was the foreclosure for the other property.
So it's very possible that was part of the reason why it was also delayed.
Right.
And that was kind of like
okay, the divorce itself is finalized, but we still have to deal with the property.
So he didn't like, he the visitation, it might have been his last trigger. It might have been his last, hey, I'm really losing everything. I don't have my wife. I don't have my kids.
I'm losing the house. And my renter is leaving in 2 weeks.
There's so many what ifs.
Oh, yeah. But also, not to be all like, oh, yeah, look at this. But he suffocated his wife. Very personal.
Extremely.
That's hatchet. Still very personal. And then all of a sudden he has a gun. And he shoots himself.
More probably impulsive.
Yes, that's impulsive. But that is like, I
mean, you're right there.
That is intimate.
Right there.
Like,
I don't understand the neighbor.
I think that she was just collateral damage. She might have just saw
it, or maybe there's a possibility that he did something to Divina when she said, "I'm leaving."
Maybe.
And the neighbor witnesses, so maybe they were already, he had already killed them when the wife walked in.
Maybe. Maybe. And the kids were home.
They were at the house when all that happened.
Yes, they were with him. She was coming to pick them up and pick up the key.
Could be changing the locks anyways, but that's not relevant.
Right.
But
so it's
why did she go by herself?
That I don't know, but you also I know the kind of like pride thing where it's like, okay, yeah, my mom knows where I'm going kind of thing, because she lived with her mother again. But I'm not going to have anybody go with me. I'm not going to ask somebody to go with me because, I'm admitting that to other people that I am.
Or maybe everything was just so easy with the divorce. I mean, no divorce is easy. Let me hit it back. No divorce is easy. I mean, there's always, whether it's clean cut on the paper or whatever, there's always the emotional turmoil. There's always those fights you don't see. There's always the discussions you don't see. It's the back and forth and the back and forth. And just, wow. There's so much to this that it's like, again, those what if webs.
Yes. The what if webs.
I wish she had reported it sooner.
Yes.
So that maybe there would have been
a little bit more kind of foundation for everything. And this happens a lot. It happens a lot where you suffer in silence, where you don't tell anybody, and you think, one, no one's going to believe me. Who's going to believe me? He's such a nice person on the outside. And that was another thing. His other neighbor was all like, he was such a nice guy.
It's so... The mask.
Yes.
It's the mask. The, he would never do that. Oh, he's such a good person. He would never. No. No, those are usually, go to the job and put on a face. Go, in the public and put on a face and make people think that you're pristine and polished and...
Yes. Now, he had, like, the driving range. So, yeah, he was always interacting with people and putting on that face and being like, hey, yes, come and hit balls.
I mean, that was also probably part of his income as well.
Yes.
So if he's losing that property, so yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It triggered. He blamed her for everything as usual. It's always the afflicted's fault. It's always, well, they made me, or they pushed me to this, or you brought me to this, or you made me do this. And
yeah.
they are never responsible for their actions in their own head.
Yeah. It's everybody else's fault. And yeah, so I'm sure she didn't report because all of a sudden you have all of these people who do know him but don't know him.
Oh, God, yes.
And it's, oh, what do you mean?
You know what's really interesting are the people who have friends that aren't in state. Who are like, oh, you're the good guy. What? Like, you're made out to be crazy. And these people who've never met you or have had very limited interaction with you are like, oh, yeah, he's great. He's fine. You've not been in a room with him. Right. You do not know what goes on behind those closed doors. So I'm going to take this moment to stress it. If you are dealing with a violent partner, if you are dealing with whether it is mental or emotional, or they're throwing things every time they get upset with you, or they're hitting the wall and putting holes in the wall, get out. Report it. Make the history. I don't care if it's a paper trail. It's important. It is important. I know that when it happens, throwing that paper in them is not going to do squat. No, it's not. It's not going to be that protection. It's giving you the doorway to that protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
all the
establishing like the pattern of being like, hey, no, this is he's done this kind of stuff before, and instead of having there be no paper trail and getting all of the information from the other people who think that he's such an amazing person. And then all of a sudden this happens and they're like, what? See, I would never think that he would do something like that. It must have been her fault.
It didn't come out in the divorce. A lot of times when you file for divorce, there has to be a reason for dissolution. For the most part, there are cases where it's like, oh, you know what, we just this isn't working for us, or we got married young, and it is peaceful. But a lot of times there's adultery, or there is violent behaviors, or finances, or drugs, or there's usually a foundation as to why you are filing for divorce. And for it to be so clean cut, and then all of a sudden this outrage, he lost it.
He could no longer hold that persona, that mask, that, oh yeah, everything's fine, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm an amazing person. Oh yeah, she divorced me. We're not clicking, we're not vibing. And then
he spiraled.
I am now losing everything. Because, yeah, the driving range was on the property.
And they bought that property together. So that would have been... So the other one that he had before they were married would have been his non-communal property. He would have been able to keep it, but it was in foreclosure.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that there was both. I'm assuming that there was like financial stuff too, where he like...
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if like you're getting drug charges in Florida.
But whenever you go through a divorce, you're always going to have financial troubles. Because divorce is expensive. Divorce is expensive.
I don't know. Never been married.
Good girl. Don't advise. However, this man just spiraled, but she had no, like, it was almost like she was masking it for him. And a lot of the afflicted will do that.
Yes. Yes. But it's not to necessarily protect them. It is to protect the image of themselves.
Yes.
Like, I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it.
I'm guilty.
Of sitting there and being like, no, it's my choice or my decision, or no, that was me, and not having them be held accountable to others. Like
the image for the children too. That's where I'm guilty, where it was, I didn't want them to think of this person, of this person that was so important in their lives. Like, this was their father. Maybe she wanted the kids to see him. Maybe he was a good dad. Maybe he he did the deadly things, but then his behaviors outside of the violence, because she said she was scared of him.
Right. She was scared of him. Not that she was fearful for her children. Her children's
Which I'm
lives.
sure, I'm sure it's still there. It's always there. It's always lingering.
Yeah.
If he's capable of violence towards you, he's capable of violence towards the kids. Absolutely. But the fact that he accepted the visitation only, there's what ifs that don't get answered, and all the families that are affected, because it wasn't just hers.
Right.
It
wasn't just hers. He took, 2 other people that essentially like had nothing to do with it.
Now there's another question though. If Divina was living in the home, which I understand she was in and out for trucking, she was in and out on the road a lot.
Yeah.
But if she was in the home, how much of that did she witness and kept quiet?
Right, that could be a factor as well. But we don't know if he like put on a mask when she was home, because she wasn't home very often. This was just kind of like a place to land in between long distance trucking. So
thank you for joining us on this episode of Skybreakers True Crime. Our hearts are with the afflicted survivors and families whose lives are connected to the stories we share. We ask that you hold them with care and compassion. If you or someone you know has experienced abuse, please know that you are not alone and that help is available.
until the sun dies,
Shatter the skies.